As a people, the Irish have great strength in our words. How we use them, regardless of the language, is very important to us. And it's also very powerful. They can be our greatest strength, whether it's through song or through solemn statement, but they can also be our curse. And in Irish belief, in Irish custom, we have what we call a Geas. And a guess, I suppose, would be too easy to call it a curse. It's a promise, it's a solemn injunction that when we say something, when we agree to something, we are bound by that. Sometimes it is in exchange for something great. You can get a supernatural power of sorts, so long as you follow your commitment that you have made. And one of Ireland's, I suppose, great warriors, characters from a mythology, Cuchulainn, which meant the Hound of Cullen, who was a great blacksmith, or Cuchulainn's often called the Hound of Ulster. Cuchulainn had two particular Gyasa held against him, and they were that one, he could never refuse a meal that he was offered. And the second one was that he could never eat the meat of a dog. So bound was he to this idea that he was a hound himself. But his undoing came when he was faced with an impossible situation, a situation that meant he had to break one of them because a woman offered him a meal of dog meat. And to refuse would break one, to accept would break another. And unfortunately, he took the meal, which ultimately played a big part in his downfall. Now, Cuchulainn is a very well known character. We also had a Grey High King, Conor Moore, and he had accumulated quite a lot of commitments, Gyasa, curses, promises, commitments. And one unfortunate night, the universe almost conspired against him to bring all of these into play in this single night. And on breaking the final curse, his homestead, his land was invaded by all of his enemies, these otherworldly creatures, and he was defeated and he was lost. But outside of our mythology, it is such a big thing to us as well. As I say, these courses, these promises and commitments were very, very popular. To say something was to commit to it, to say that I will do this thing, that I am this thing. To say those was like firing an arrow. Once it was released, once it was put out there, that was your commitment. And really, there was no way to break or to lift these courses. They weren't like fairy tale courses, like the, kiss, true love's kiss or something like that. And no, I think if you were to try look for a loophole and to read these stories and kind of learn about them, you could see that maybe the one way to free yourself from the commitment, from the course or the promise, was to change who you are, to become someone different, to leave that person who made that commitment behind and recreate yourself as a new person. That would be one way around that. But that's quite a big commitment. That's quite an undertaking, and it's not particularly achievable for most people. But as I said, that's the thing with words. They're important. Once we say something, once we put it out there, and the internet is a great example of that. Once we make a statement, once we say it, once we put it out into the world, it is there. It is so hard to take that back, or to change the intent behind that. And that's something we all need to be very, very aware of.